Sasa tumefika hiyo time. And we'll need I think we're going to circulate, somebody to assist us with circulating papers for people who want to ask questions, yeah? That would be, and then also at the right time, we'll need a microphone going around for those who want to pose some questions. So thank you. Please prepare your questions. We have about 1 hour to do this, and we want to thank the panelists for being here today. Let's give them one more round of applause and we begin.
Thank you, Daniel. So our first question would go to Justice Musiga. There's somebody who asked that I live with the father of my children. I've lived with the father of my children for 12 years. Our stay together was not formalized. That means no dowry paid, wedding or legal arrangements made. They separated 15 years ago. So her question is, can she remarry? Because it's her desire to settle down.
I think Daniel already is saying that some of the questions have already been answered. Let me start by thanking my friend and the Elder John Nganga for that very good exposition that he has done. And he has not given an opinion, his opinion. He has reminded us of God's commands. So the simple answer to that question is no. She's not allowed to remarry. I believe I cannot add or contradict what the Bible says. There may be legal issues that can be handled in that relationship, because even after separation or divorce, there are legal consequences, and those are things that can be undertaken appropriately. But the question of whether she can remarry has already been answered. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much for that. Now, there's a question here. I mean, many of them have already been answered, but it'll be just good to also hear maybe from the church's position. What happens when somebody is considering remarriage and they're divorced? What goes on? What's the process there? Maybe Mr. Ponga, you can take us on that, or Itela, either of the two.
I want to understand the question clearly.
So the question is, what's the church's position? What happens when somebody is considering remarriage and they're divorced? How does the church handle that?
Okay. Basically, from the church standpoint, if somebody is divorced and is considering to remarry, because our position on divorce and remarriage is that it is not permitted biblically, therefore the church does not participate in that process. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Sorry, just in line with that, back to Justice Musiga. Can somebody sue for bigamy?
Yes, you can actually sue for bigamy. Bigamy, let's break it down, is where you are lawfully married and then you purport to undergo another marriage. So if you are statutorily married, you're married here in church. And even if you backslide and you purport to want to go through another marriage, it is an offense. You are not only sinning against God, but you're also violating the laws of the land. You can actually be prosecuted and be sentenced to jail. So it is an offense.
Wow, very interesting.
Hey, all right. Now, maybe to the church. I can throw this one to maybe Tella can take us. Somebody has...
Maybe Daniel, just for the interest of justice, if there are all those legal questions, we can allow him to respond to them, because he may want to leave at some point. Yeah.
Okay. He said it's okay. Yeah. All right. So, somebody says emotional abuse and physical abuse is real in church. I am a victim. Some even say that these people who are the perpetrators of this are people who are known, HODs, in the church, So it becomes hard for the spouse to report the HOD. So what does the church do about such things?
Thank you, Dan, for that question. I actually received a set of questions. When I looked at them, I was like, I'm not going to appear here, because actually it was going to be on fire. But I think it is true that there are those issues emerging where some emotional abuse takes place, like the way Elder Nganga has explained. We sleep in different houses, but we come to church walking together as though everything else is fine, but there is a problem. And so what happens is we don't process that emotional abuse in terms of understanding where it's coming from. And so fear drives us not to be able to come out in open and begin to deal with it, particularly when your husband or your spouse is a leader in church. It becomes very difficult, again, also because of the cultural norms, where you'd be seen to be pulling the other one down. But I think there are also processes within the church where you can reach out to the pastoral team or reach out to the elders and seek guidance in terms of how to address that issue. So I think there's a lot of emotional abuse within couples, but we are suppressing it. We are not coming out for fear that I will be exposing our marriage relationship.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'll pose a question to Dr. Margaret. In light of what we've just been told today, and there are marriages that are hurting, yes, as a woman, how would I deal with a husband who is violent and emotionally abusive? Because, emotional abuse is not like physical abuse where it's seen. How would a woman navigate such a marriage?
Thank you for the question, and allow me to connect to what has just been responded to, or what was asked about these people that are in church and they are going through this and it's suppressed and they come to church. The recipients of the trauma are the children, because whether it is done behind the bedroom, therefore they may not know that physical abuse is going on. Emotional abuse cannot be hidden. And what happens to children, they get what we refer to as ACEs, that is adverse childhood experiences. And the wiring of the brain is completely changed. And they experience or they live out those traumas in their adult lives. And that is when you hear, because many causes of substance use, if you trace it down, you will realize that in their life, there was a lot of marital violence, either emotionally or physical abuse, and therefore children become the recipients, and I put quote and quote, they're the sufferers in that marriage. So it is not just the wife or the spouse or the husband for that matter, but children have long-term effects. And for that reason, therefore, it is something that we should look and we should seek help for, so that you are restored and therefore the children do not suffer post-traumatic stress disorder, which has adverse effects in their teenage, early adulthood, and they live with it into their adult lives. So let me mention, therefore, as you asked, you're a woman, you have been emotionally abused, or you're going through emotionally challenges in the marriage, seek for help. Suppressing it, covering it, is not a solution. It usually explodes in ways that you have no control about. And some of that would be what you're talking about, children. It's so sad to know that, or to, as a woman, you realize that you are not seeking help for yourself on your family, is what has led to what your children have become. So seek for help, counseling services, that is important, because sick mothers bring up sick children. So an emotionally sick mother, and I'm putting emotionally sick quote unquote, because when you're emotionally abused, then you become emotionally unwell. Then you tend to bring up children that are also emotionally unwell. Studies were done in this. Allow me to mention this. Studies were done in Kenyatta in the adolescent center, and it was realized that 60% of the children, of the adolescents who were in the center or had come to the center for help, 60% of them had mothers who had depression. And therefore you can see that sick mothers giving rise to children that are troubled. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Yes, please.
Let me say something. We seem not to have to be dealing with a question. What do you do with a HOD who is violent? Or a HOD who is mangering, you know? Those must be dealt with. Three things. Number one, as a wife or husband to such a man, your biggest worry is the guy is going to hell. Don't worry you are losing a husband. You are losing a life. Sometimes you think of just yourself. If you love him, you do your best for him not to go to hell. And what he is doing is sinful. So, and we read it from the scriptures. So the first thing is, you must understand that it's not a question of if and what, because you are dealing with a matter of life and death. Number two, I like what James Dobson has written a book, Love Must Be Tough. And if you ever get the book, I would really recommend you do. He argues, if, for example, your husband starts drinking, and when you are rang from the office, why he has not come to the office, you cover him. You know, when the office calls, he's waiting to hear what you say. If you cover him, it now allows him to continue drinking. If you are truly loving, and the boss has said, yeah, he is here, he has a hangover. Now, the guy will jump out of bed. Will he drink again? No. So the wife who covers up her husband is an enemy to that husband. A husband who covers a wife is an enemy. Love must be tough means let the matter get known. My third point is, when we started Bible study groups, it was in order to deal with that. And it's a requirement of every pastor to belong to a safari group. Every head of department. In fact, when Bishop Adoy and I were in the leadership, we would not give you you could not become a member of the church or a leader in the church unless you told us who your Bible study leader is. Because the church is so large, we don't know each other. Am I right? So it's only a safari group, which is 10, maximum 20 people who know each other. And you can share with somebody in that group whom you trust. And the matter can now go to the rest of the office from that level. So please try to use the small group for purposes of helping your husband or your wife. I hope that helps.
Yes, Bonga. Yeah.
Maybe I can add a bit on the matters of character and conduct, not only in marriage, but even generally. I believe CITAM is very strong when it comes to accountability. And the fact that somebody holds a leadership position doesn't shield them from being held accountable. So even if this is your husband or your wife, and the impression that they present in church is different from who they are at home or their character and conduct, you have a right to raise this matter. You can raise it with the elders, you can raise it with the pastors, because even if it is a pastor who is immoral or is violent at home, they are held to account. So there is no one who is spared, and we are not in the business of covering up anyone. So you have a right to raise that matter so that it can be addressed. Sometimes for the pastors or the church leadership, it may take time for us to get to know what exactly is happening. Because most of the time we deal and interact with the person as they present themselves in church. So unless that information comes to us, we are not able to act on it.
Thank you. Just there's one here, and please just let's try and keep our questions within the context of what Elder has already said, because some of them are repetitive and the answers have already been given. So I'll try to cover as many. But there's one that is very interesting here, and I think the challenge we are facing is application of some of these things seem unbearable. There's a lady who says, I was once married, but later divorced, before I was 33 years of age. What happens? Is it the end for her? Or she should be scrolling through the obituaries every day, hoping to see, does it mean she's going to stay separate for the rest of her life at that young age? So she's really concerned, because she feels like she settled in young and naive, and they're divorced. So now what happens?
1 Corinthians chapter 7. I don't think a Christian person can give an answer that contradicts the Bible.
Okay.
And the Bible is not encouraging you. You put one and you pick another.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And in
Thank
fact,
you.
the Bible actually said, why can't you reconcile with the one you divorced? Did you remember we read that?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't think it's important to understand. So that's why I took a lot of time to emphasize singlehood. My wife says, and I agree with her, marriage is temporary. Singlehood is permanent. All of us are single to begin with, single, and many of us will be single towards the end. In between, there will be marriage. So none of us will not, either your spouse dies, you are single, or whatever the reason, you are single. So we must learn how to live contented life as single people. I'm repeating myself.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elder. I have a question here from a widow who wants to get married who has gotten married to another man, and her question is, can her child change their name to the name of her current husband in the birth certificate, and what are the implications of that? Perhaps Justice Musinga can take that up.
I am assuming that the child had already, the parents or the mother had applied for a birth certificate of that child, because if they have a birth certificate and now she's a widow, she wants to remarry. She has already remarried. If the child is not being forced to assuming he's an adult or he's able to make up his mind, if it is in the best interest of the child to change the name, they can go and apply. There's a process that can be undertaken at the Registrar of Persons. She will present the remarriage certificate, and then they will apply, and it can be allowed. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Maybe we need to also, there are questions here that are seeking clarity on, number one, customary marriages in the AG, are those considered, does God, consider those as marriages? That is fine, or does it have to always be done here? And then somebody has also asked about the Kamui stays. Maybe we can get a bit of clarity on that, maybe from the church's perspective and also from a legal perspective.
Maybe you can allow me to add something on the change of name. I think it's a good thing for the name of the current father to be added, like he mentioned, for the sake of the child, because of identity. Yes. You can imagine two children, they're in school, they're coming from the same home, one has a different surname from the other, so the questions and the feeling that this child will always feel like an outsider. So for the sake of identity, the psychological safety, that would be a good thing to do.
As you're answering that, what I've just asked, also touch on polygamy. There's somebody who is saying, I am the second wife, and the husband and my co-wife, we have accepted to live together in harmony. Kindly comment on that.
Let me repeat before you come to polygamy. I think he's the right person for polygamy. Because he must have had all those issues in court. and you will compare with what the Bible says. But let's repeat. That we read together. If you get saved and you're already in a marriage, you are not out of the marriage. Yeah. So you can't say, but you know, it was a come we stay. You know, as long as you committed yourself to each other, God knows that you are together. What we ask is, in order to remove any doubt, come to church. And you can even go to the pastor's office if you don't want to come here. Come to the front. Please, make a new commitment. And you are not actually being wedded. Marriage is being blessed. So whether you are talking about you are in a traditional marriage or you are in a come we stay, you are not allowed to just dump each other. Now that you are saved, you run away from their responsibility. They are children, they are whatnot. The scriptures, my understanding of what it says, while you are a slave, you are not freed now that you have become a Christian. I think that's my understanding of what you come. You can't throw away your traditional marriage because you have gotten saved. What you do is you come to the church and the marriage will be blessed. You will sign marriage certificate, whatever, so that it's a Christian marriage. And I'm sure Justice can explain the difference between a traditional marriage and a Christian marriage legally. But it's important that even all the people that came with the come we stay, whatever the marriage, it's important to come before the pastor for the marriage to be, not the wedding, marriage to be officiated and blessed.
Thank you.
So the Marriage Act 2014 allows polygamy if the initial marriage was a customary marriage, not a statutory marriage, not a marriage where that was officiated in church. Because you see, in church, one, biblically, you've been told you are not to divorce. But secondly, according to the laws of the land, the pastor, the reverend, issues you or the couple with a certificate in accordance with the laws of the land. And that does not allow polygamy. But if the initial marriage was a customary marriage, if you just went there before the elders and you got married traditionally, that man can remarry a second, third wife, and each of those wives will be entitled to a marriage certificate. Listen, marriage certificate, not under the church regulation, but under the laws of the land, because it is a customary marriage. Every customary marriage is potentially polygamous. In other words, you're saying polygamy is allowed in Kenya as long as the initial marriage was a customary marriage, not a statutory marriage. But but I think I should also say polyandry, where a woman proposed to have two husbands, has never been allowed. It's not allowed.
All right, I have a question to Mr. Itela. Then perhaps after the question, we'll open up the floor to take some questions from the audience. Other churches have started divorce care groups to support the affected spouses and children where divorce was inevitable. You know, how comes CITAM we've not thought of that? Or what's the plan?
Actually, we have divorce care groups, particularly for those categories that are currently ongoing. I know within the women's ministry, they have the widowers. It is only for the men that a few men are now coming together to begin to look at what happens when you lose your spouse. So what I think is there has been no announcements or prominence given to it, but I know there are different groups, just like we also have a group for the singles.
Is there a particular one for divorced people?
Now, I'm coming to that. What currently is before I then come to the divorce. Now, when it comes to divorce matters, because of the complexity of it, you can't even tell from this congregation who is divorced and who is not, because they don't come out in open to let you know. So they come to church and they go back. Now, we need to map up and find out who are those people within the church that need, and then now we can structure a program co-jointly between Faith and Women's Ministry and the Men's Fellowship, because that's where they are, and see then how we can create a fellowship so that then now we can begin to address the issues within. But just like Elder Nganga has mentioned, that the church does not entertain divorce. So when those fellowship meetings do happen, it doesn't give the blanket cover that actually this church actually allows divorce, and that's why we're having those groups. So it's just for the purpose of allowing that discussion to happen, so that then we create that level of healing and understanding of where you are and how you can be helped then now to move forward. But at the moment, that's a very good question that gives us an opportunity to look inward and see then how we establish the support groups for the divorced.
Thank you. There was a statement that was mentioned by the elder that as a born-again Christian, if you're married maybe to an unbeliever, you should not participate in the divorce process. And there was a question here, I don't want to divorce my legally married husband, but he's forcing me to do so. What should I do? In that case, what should somebody do if someone wants to divorce them? Yeah, how can they not participate?
I think biblically we know you should not participate. Legally, I don't.
Yeah, legally, yes.
Divorce is not automatic. You must go before a court of law and show that there are grounds that are allowable under the laws of the country for a court to grant that divorce. Adultery is one of them, that is unfaithfulness, violence, and so on. So if you do not prove any of those grounds, if this man simply wants to divorce because he thinks that he has undergone dogo that he wants to marry, and he doesn't have a valid ground for divorcing the wife, the divorce may not be granted. But even if it is not granted, and this is something that we grapple with in courts, even if you refuse to grant that divorce, can you force the two to stay together? You can't. And so it becomes a zero-sum game.
All right. Okay, so how about we take a few questions from the audience? Can the mic be passed? There's a hand up there.
I am a Christian counselor, and I will say in those political terms that we are in touch with the ground. And I will need clarification from Elder Nganga and also Pastor Ponga on this issue of divorce and remarriage as far as the CITAM policy is concerned. So the issue here is because we encounter this a lot. If people remarry and stay in CITAM, how does CITAM deal with them? They are members, they're divorced, they're remarried, they're in CITAM. How do you deal with them? To what extent? They were not members. They got remarried outside there. They came to church. What process does CITAM, when somebody is there, they want to serve? Because these people participate in church activities. What kind of process do you initiate in that? And then the third one is, up to what extent can people who are separated in the church and they are divorced be allowed as far as service, Christian service is concerned? Because people get divorced, people get separated, but they're still in ministry. Up to what extent does CITAM allow that? Is there a clear policy as far as that is concerned? Because to some extent it's bringing a lot of difficulty when we are dealing with people down there.
Well, the question I hear is, if you are having a marital problem, are you allowed to continue ministering? Because church attendance, CITAM has no problem. Getting involved in the safari group, that's not the question. Can you become a head of a department? can you teach Sunday school? I hope, my friend, I'm understanding the question. That's the real question. Yeah. So the question is not about the church accepting people that are divorced, that are remarried, the issue is, can they get involved? My understanding, and if it's not there, I didn't run out of time. He took away 5 of my minutes when he came. I had a timer and I'd only done about 50 minutes. Now, I wanted to cover that. Paul, talking about leadership, says, if somebody's marriage, family is having a problem, heaven you will go, but you should not be allowed to be a leader in the church. Are you getting the point? And that is the principle. That, my brother, you are saved, you are forgiven, but the kind of marital issues you have are not good, and a good example to the church. Are we together? So, Paul said, let him continue handling the challenges of his home. That's already a church at home. Don't add another one. So I don't think we are going to have a new one when the scriptures already cover it. So my brother, if you are divorced, that itself is a challenge, and between you and God. The church will not judge you, it's you between you and God. But to ask at the same time to teach a premarital class, you know, these young people, they Google you immediately. You are told to go and teach premarital, they have already Googled. And they start saying, what is he telling us? How come he himself never was waiting? So the church would be doing wrong to put you in such an embarrassing position. However, having said that, in your office, you are supposed to continue witnessing. Are we together? Remember, and I think that's where the missionary got it wrong. He kind of implied that if you are polygamous at home, you must throw away one wife or some wives. That's not in the Bible. What they were told is they cannot be leaders in the church. And so the missionary was asking people to throw away their wives. So polygamy, if you entered it before you are Christian, you are not being asked to divorce any. But you are being told you cannot be a leader in the church. Can you see how fair the Bible is? Yeah. And it needs to be understood. As long as you have repented, you are okay with God. Are we together? So we cannot condemn people when God has forgiven them. Leadership, ministry, that's different. So why don't you continue witnessing to the people in your neighborhood, in your office? Get involved in ministry. But the church, the rules are clear.
All right, Reverend Ponga, you want to add?
Yeah, maybe he mentioned a bit of somebody who divorced and remarried elsewhere, and now they are coming to CITAM. So the leadership also has the discretion of not granting this person registered membership, because that would contradict the position of the church. But this person is still welcome to attend church, still welcome to attend Safari Group, but they may not be granted CITAM membership, or they may not be allowed to serve in leadership.
Okay.
Thank you. As we're going on, as we're getting another question, maybe I'll throw this to Daktari. There are parents here who are talking about their children who have struggled through what they have seen in, marriages struggling, alcoholism, physical abuse. Maybe is there something you could say? What steps can they do? And it seems to come especially from, I would think it's from the mothers, who are raising even boy child. I'm seeing there's lots of messages. How do we support these children? How do we get them help? Because even it's a challenge for this child to get that help. So the parents don't know what to do, and they themselves have gone through a lot. Maybe you can touch on that.
All right. Maybe just to go back to what I said, that children must be treated when there's a traumatic event that happens in the home. Substance use, violence, like we mentioned, of whatever form, is a traumatic event happening in a home environment. And children consume it or take it up Sometimes even they blame themselves for what is happening. And so it's important to get those children to get help. Get help. Let them go to counseling so that they are empowered, because sometimes you may not be able. The ideal would be to remove a child from a traumatic environment. But if removing the child from the person who is bringing the trauma is a spouse, then it may not be possible, like we have been told today, you're not going to divorce, but there's a time when separation becomes important to remove that child from a traumatic environment. Because you do not want to hang on to trauma, you do not want to hang on to an environment that is really negative for the children. So separation can be one of the things that helps that child to be removed from a traumatic environment. Then as the child is counseled and they become empowered and they develop coping skills of being able to cope with that situation, then they will be less traumatized. And the parent as well. Because when the parent gets you said it's from the mothers. So when the mother gets help, she develops coping skills. She knows how to shield the children from the traumatic experience. And they've already sought help for them. Then that child would be safe in that home. But, in therapy, we usually say, safety is important. Not only physical safety, but emotional and psychological safety for the children.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Another question from the audience, perhaps? Yes, there.
There is someone at the back there.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Kome, and I'm not married, but for the sake of my generation, as a Gen Z, I want to ask a question that I know there is a high probability that will affect me in the future when I interact with my future friends who are going to be married. So in a case whereby maybe one of the spouse or both of them happen to be struggling with pornography and masturbation, from the perspective of the church and biblically, how can they approach that matter? Like the practical ways they can approach that matter and solve it. Because I know biblically it's not accepted, but I'm asking about practical steps that they can take to solve that issue.
Thank you, Kome. That one, was it specific to anyone or anyone can?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, let me take it up from the counseling position. That's an addiction. And addiction requires addiction intervention. So it is very important to go for addiction intervention, in other words, with a trained therapist, so that one is able to be treated or to be helped out of that before they get into marriage. Because it becomes very problematic in marriage. Very problematic without getting into details. But one must get helped from addiction. It's actually a psychological, it's a mental disorder. Addiction is a mental disorder. So one has got to be helped from that before they get into the next step of marriage.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add and say thank you for that good question? With Steve and our respective spouses, we've been involved in premarital counseling for over 15 years or so. And we always request and tell the young people who are preparing to get married when they come to our class, they must deal with such kind of situations. There must be disclosure between them if one of them is struggling in that area, so that, as Dr. says, there is formal help through counseling, and there are experts who can help them navigate that challenge. Because if they do not, there's going to mess up their marriage.
Thank you. Yes.
But maybe also to add, I think there's still a spiritual angle to pornography and masturbation. So we cannot also rule out the place of prayer. So even alongside the counseling, you can also reach out for prayer, because it's also a kind of a spiritual bondage.
Yes, Italo.
Yeah, thank you for that question, because I think the underlying factor is, first of all, acceptance that you need help, because you cannot be forced to come to be helped. Is you must get to the level where you want to understand that I have a problem and I need to be helped. And the question normally is, does the church offer that facility to help you out, even before you think about getting into marriage, because that's already a red flag, whether you are dating or you are planning to get into marriage. And I think the way Justice Musinga has mentioned, you can come to family care and have a discussion with us together, also with the counseling ministry in church, which is headed by Dan Mugera on the other side, and reach out to seek help first before you start planning of getting into a relationship.
Thank you. As you said, yes, we offer counseling. The church has a counseling ministry. All you need to do is just call the church office and they'll direct you to the relevant resources for that, the person who had asked that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Perhaps I have another question for Mr. Itela. The young people are asking, why are young people not getting married? We are seeing a trend where young people are opting to just stay single. Is it the fear that the older generation has created about marriage? What's happening, really?
That's a discussion I ask every young person. Why are you not getting married? The reasons that I get is siko tayari. Marriage, sio kitu ya. It's not in my agenda. My agenda is make money and enjoy life. All right? The next one is the young people have also had experiences where they have seen marriages fail. And I think that has affected them so greatly, the way in terms of how we've presented marriage. We've presented marriage so casually that's a walk-in and out affair. And what Elder Nganga has explained to us, that it's a walk-in and not a walk-out. You engage the front gear and there is no reverse gear. So young people are coming from that perspective. Hii kitu ya marriage munaongea kila siku hapa, what is it actually? Because we see people come in and get out, and we see things, becoming normal, and it's kind of like becoming like a normal. And that's why you find that come with stays are now becoming very, very common among young people. They cohabit, and when things don't work, in fact, they say, wacha kwanza, we test, we see how it works. If it doesn't work, then we can walk out. So there are many reasons, and we would like to have a dialogue with young people to understand. Some of them, for one reason or the other, get rejected because of the way they present themselves, and they need to sharpen their skills in terms of how do you present yourself and make a proposal on the other end. Would like to engage on that so that you position yourself properly and at the right place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe I can add a bit to what my HOD has said. There's also the bit of commercialization of the marriage process and the weddings, which has scared a number of young people. In terms of the commercialization of dowry, which Elder Nganga has really covered in some of his books, and even the glamour we see in the wedding shows. The young people see the expense, a 1 million budget, and they are just starting off in their career life. They are just earning maybe 30,000, 50,000. So they are wondering, how am I able to organize a 1 million wedding, which can also be covered in the wedding show? So sometimes that causes a delay in preparation, causes them to fear getting married. And yet, even here in church, maybe this information is not, maybe many people are not aware. You can do a wedding as cheap as you may want it to be. Even if you don't have any budget, as Elder mentioned, we can do a wedding in the boardroom without any charges. So it doesn't have to be the way it has been commercialized and presented in the society.
Okay. Thank you, Reverend Ponga. Thank you. Daniel, I'm seeing we are running out of time. But before I allow you to speak, I've gotten so many questions. And I feel the church needs to do more, because most of the questions you are receiving is on remarriage. There's a desire for remarriage and for this conversation to keep on going, yes, because those are the realities we are facing today. So perhaps, Reverend Ponga, you'd probably tell us, I know there's what the Bible tells us, but also there's the reality and what is coming out from the church. How do we take this moving forward?
One,
Or should we have a care group, a group for
Elder is
Stacy?
suggesting that we explore changing the Bible, which we can't. But there are those initiatives we are undertaking. One is those issues will also be covered in the upcoming Family Discipleship Conference. So we are intentional about engaging and wrestling with those matters. We are not shying away from them. We are not burying our heads in the sand. And that's why I believe we have been bold enough to organize this forum and allow people to ask questions and confront the matter head on. And we will continue engaging it. But as Elder has said, what Scripture has presented, we cannot amend because we don't have the powers to. That's why sometimes I also say, like, for us as pastors, our powers end at declaring you husband and wife. We cannot undo that declaration. Or we cannot now say, because of the emerging circumstances, we would want to reconsider what we declared. It's not within our powers or what we have been permitted to do. But in the event that issues arise, that's why we engage with counseling and we continue organizing such forums to continue discussing such matters. And possibly maybe at some point engaging them even during our services.
Okay, thank you.
There was someone, I think it's a gentleman, who asked a question. I can see there are so many questions, and this is just an indicator that there is a problem. And we can't tackle all of that in 1 hour. So with this conversation, we'll have to go on. Somebody had asked, if your wife leaves you and marries another man, what then should the man do? Should he wait for her to divorce her second husband, to return to her first husband? So, you know, the questions that are coming to my mind is, number one, how did this wife marry again? What happens like in the church when a divorcee comes and wants to marry again? Is there a clear policy on that would reject that? Is that happening out there? If they went, what does the government do? Does it agree to maybe an AG sort of setup? And what happens maybe if they want to get back together later? It all just seems messy and complicated, you know. Maybe a bit of clarity on that.
Now, first of all, one of the things you must tell a new believer, and it's unfortunate sometimes we give the new believer the impression, come to Jesus and things will be new. The trouble, you come to Jesus and it becomes master. When the master tells you to jump, you don't ask him why. However unfair it is. What do you ask him? And that's what we need to tell Christians. So if you really don't feel like you don't want to obey the master, he doesn't force you. You are free to backslide. Are we together? There are consequences of your backsliding. You will face them forwards. So we can only, from a church point of view, I fear, in America, in the West, they have given up. You'll find a pastor on his third marriage. But the Bible hasn't changed, has it? So you need to understand, like, that question is real. This idea, it means that I am not the one who caused the divorce. Now I'm suffering and I'm not the cause. That's the question they are really asking. That's the question they are really asking. That's why you heard me say, sex is not oxygen. Please go remembering. Keep telling yourself, sex is not oxygen. If she leaves me, I'll still live an enjoyable life minus sex. Because that's really what the man is talking about. The how do I live like that? That needs to be understood. So we are not telling him he is waiting for her to come back. We are simply saying, find a way of living a contented life as a single person. And let's be clear. There are many people who are single. Some of them are seated here. And they don't have that opportunity. Are we suggesting that single people don't live fulfilled lives. So that's what you must deal with. I have a book. I didn't know there are single people. I didn't mention it. I've written a small book called Finding a Life Partner. And the first chapter tells young people there are many satisfied, happy, single people. I give them an example in my book. Carrie Francis. Ever heard of Carrie Francis? We are told he had a girlfriend in Britain. When he said he's going to dark Africa, he was dropped like hot potato. He came to Kenya to see, and so when I was in primary school in the 1960s, we used to do mathematics, a book by Carrie Francis. Anybody of my age and earlier knows Carrie Francis. He never married a woman, but he left a legacy. We are talking about him many years later. There's a guy called Okuku Danger. We have almost forgotten him. With all the wives. When you are single serving the Lord, you will leave a legacy. Are we together? So let's not create. So in my book, I try to show the benefits of marriage, the benefits of singlehood, the challenges of marriage, the challenge of singlehood. Don't create, according to cool customs, if you don't marry, you have a problem. According to the Bible, you will be happier in heaven, even if you don't get married.
Yes, Pastor.
Yeah, maybe to add again on the bit of how do we respond when presented with such a case. Once we establish that one of the parties who is intending to get married was married before, and the spouse they were married to is still alive, then as the church, we refrain. We say we are not able to officiate this marriage. So we usually have those discussions with people who are intending to get married, but also that's why we direct them to the AG's office to go and register their intention to get married. And even the AG's office, if they establish that one of the parties had already been contracted in a previous marriage and it is still standing, then that particular intention is flagged. It may not be permitted to continue. And that is also the intention for announcing the banns of marriage. So that in case somebody is aware that one of the individuals intending to get married was married before and the spouse is still alive, can bring that information to church. And when we get that information, then we cannot proceed with the wedding.
Thank you. I would ask that we pause on that. Maybe we can just allow the panelists to give us their last remarks so we can close with it. Pastor Ponga, was that your last remark or do you want to add something?
Maybe just to say that, as Elder mentioned, the matters we are dealing with are very sensitive, and there are several variations of issues that arise or emerge in marriage, which sometimes lead to separation or divorce, and pushing somebody to consider the possibility of remarriage. But what I would encourage is, whenever such issues arise, do not be in a hurry to make a decision. Seek counsel, seek prayer, and I believe God will continue to help and heal our marriages wherever offense has occurred.
3 things. It's okay to be single. So if you are single, don't start feeling you are minors. You can live a fulfilled life as a single father, as a single mother, as a single no children. Second point, that we need to understand that marriage is work. And the reason why many marriages are going down is because of laziness. You used to take that girlfriend out, now you don't even take her anywhere. Now you need to understand that courtship before marriage is important, but it's not as important as courtship in marriage. And even after 46 years, if I stop taking Rebecca out, there'll be trouble. And I'll be the one harvesting the trouble. So for my own, it's my wisdom to befriend that girl. Are we together? So as we sit here, I'm talking to my men, you must go back and wear those shoes again of courtship and court her. Thirdly, and importantly, do not let the issues of marriage and sex make you lose heaven. Stick with the Lord and obey Him. Now that many of these people are younger than me, I'll give you my telephone number because some of the questions are very personal and we may need to talk one-on-one. Is that okay? I'll give you my number. You can ring me now where you don't want the public. It's just the two of us to talk. I'm retired half the time. So just... And that's one of the things I've been telling my age mates. In our 70s, sure, if you're not available, and the next time it's heaven, so we better be available now. May I give you my number? 0743 034 157. Let me repeat. 0743 034 157. We can talk one-on-one as the Lord helping us. Thank you.
I don't think I have anything more to add after the elder has spoken so eloquently and powerfully. But perhaps I can just add this. And he said it. There are consequences, legal consequences. First of all, we start with biblical consequences of your relationship with God, but also, humanly speaking, consequences, legal consequences of either divorce or separation. He said earlier, if you are in an abusive relationship, you are being threatened. Somebody is telling you nitakuwa, because we have seen in reality many women and even a few men who have been killed by their spouses. Do not wait until you are killed. Separate with a view to seeing whether reconciliation is possible. Do not endanger your life because you do not want to be stigmatized that you are a separated person. And again, if unfortunately you have been separated, divorced, if there are children, the laws of the land talk about the best interests of the children, particularly when they are children of tender years. If that man has unfortunately decided to walk out, he has a legal responsibility to maintain those children. Seek help so that yourself and the children can get legal assistance, can be maintained, and so that you're able to educate your children, so that you're able to take care of yourself. And also, do not let your children and yourself lose what you are legally entitled to in terms of whether it is the land or other things. You are legally married, and therefore your children and yourself are entitled to what is rightly yours, and the laws of the land will protect you. But remember, God says, I hate divorce. Thank you.
One of the things I would add is in marriage, before the marriage gets to a place that is so troubled that it is only separation that would help, seek help. Immediately you realize that we are not in the same relationship where we started off. Seek help. There are places of seeking help. The church has a counseling department. We also know that at the head office, we even have online services. Seek help for your marriage because it can be rescued. The longer you stay with trouble, the more it gets to a place where people lose up on the marriage. And then let me add what Justice said. Where there is trouble, where there is evidence or where there is risk for physical abuse and physical, you're hurt physically, please, even for the sake of your children, do not stay in that space. Separate. Sometimes there could be restoration. Thank you.
I think from my end, just talk about one thing. Disclosure. Very important. That we do not hide things from one another that would actually bring some conflict in our relationship. So we need to handle disclosure very well, because as you age, the way Elder Nganga said, you may get old at some point, and then a chief tells you somebody is looking for you and there is a child anatafuta baba. So disclose these things so that they don't become embarrassing later on in life. Disclose your dealings. Disclose things that will make relationships a little bit more difficult. Issues to do with finances, the loans. Those 8 things that is mentioned here, run through them and see exactly how they apply. Then number 2, for the young people who want to get into marriage, seek for the information before you get into marriage. Seek for the right information in the right place, not in social media. I also go to social media at times. I don't get the accurate information like the one we've gotten from Elder Nganga in social media. So FACE gives you that platform together with other ministries here. Come, let's dialogue, let's talk. And for those who feel that FACE is about married couples and doesn't deal with outsiders, I can assure you that we have space for every category of family members. So let's dialogue and then together create programs that will help us get the right information out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. Remember, Elder Nganga's books are available at the reception at 600 Kenya shillings only. Please make sure you purchase one on your way out. Thank you so much for your time, panelists. You may have your seat.